Thanks to those joining me live and to those that'll be joining me on archive. I'm being joined by the one, the only Stormy B Man, and I'm being joined, of course, by Kurt Sugar here, Curtis Anderson. How's it going, gentlemen?
It's going great. Good to see you, Stormy B Man and D Style Boxing. Great to be on your show.
Yeah, everything's going well, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Stormy B Man, tell everyone what's going on with the channel, man. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Oh, everybody can find me right on YouTube, Stormy B Man. That's the name of the channel. And I'm working a rotation of 3 nights a week, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Central, Friday nights, 8 p.m. Central, and Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central. So we got a little bit of flavor, a little bit of everything. So that's what's going on. We got the 3 wise men of boxing every other Saturday, In the Eye of the Storm every other Saturday, Friday night chop session. And as we just saw an hour ago, we finished up with the Tuesday tussle.
Well, there you go. Make sure you guys check that, show out and subscribe to Stormy B-Man. We have BF2B in the chat. What's going on, bro? How's it going? He says, awesome panel. Curtis Anderson, tell everybody where they can find you, bro, here on YouTube.
Yes, sir. My name is Curtis Anderson, aka Kurt Sugar. You can find me on Blue Blood Sports TV. That's afternoons, 5:30. We haven't done a show in a while. Blue's been busy. You can find me at OG Boxing Talk for non-boxing Sunday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And me, Stormy B Man, and Scrapbook Boxing, we are the 3 wise men of boxing every other Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a show this Saturday. And in the very near future, we're going to change to Thursday nights. More on that later. So join us for the 3 wise men of boxing, where the show really goes in depth about the history of the sport of the sweet science.
Absolutely, man. There you go, guys. Make sure you check that out. You guys are having a show this Saturday, right?
Yes, sir.
Make sure you guys check that out for sure, man. Great show, great content. You can't go wrong with that. Let's go ahead and get this started right away. This is this aftermath segment of this show. Scott Quigg gets stopped in the 11th round. The towel is thrown in against John O'Carroll. Kurt Sugar, tell us what you saw in that fight, man.
I was very impressed with John O'Carroll. He fought Tevin Farmer. He laid out a dud. Farmer won easy. So I'm thinking maybe Quigg is going to win this fight, but it was not to be. Carroll looked at like Willie Pep, in that fight. He boxed beautifully, giving angles, combination punching. He was pot shotting. I was very surprised by how easy and how bad Quigg looked. He made him look bad. Carroll really surprised me, and I knew he was going to stop him. He was just landing too many shots. They throw in the towel. Carroll, raised his game, and that's the thing about boxing. You can raise the level of your game, and it could be right in front of your face, and that's what Carroll did. He really boxed beautifully, and he stopped Quigg. It's not that he won, it's how he won. Very impressive. It was impressive performance, and I want to see Carroll more, because I want to see, can he keep up that momentum, or it was just a bad styles matchup. And that's how boxing goes. It's a matter of styles. It's when you the timing when you catch a fighter or yourself. Sometimes you learn and you match up well with a guy. So let's see what happens to Carroll in the immediate future.
Yeah, I agree, man. Carroll, he had the loss with Tevin Farmer. A lot of people kind of ruled him out a little bit, but he came back, looked good in his fight. Kurt Sugar, Scott Quigg, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but he looked a little shot to me. Like, I don't really like using that word, but he didn't look all there, man. He was reacting very, very slow. He had slow responses, slow reaction time. Was that more John O'Carroll, in your opinion, or is Scott Quigg losing a step?
I think it's a combination of both. You can see it. His reaction time was way off. He couldn't do anything with Carroll. Carroll was landing at will. You know, Carroll just don't hit real hard, but even that's bad because he's going to land a whole lot of shots. And the referee kept looking and looking, and the corner did the right thing. So I think it's a combination of both. Scott Quigg, I believe, retired after the fight. So let's just hope he stays retired and Carroll moves on.
Yeah, man. I think retirement is a good idea because he did not look so good. Either that or he's got to step down in competition. And sometimes these fighters' egos are too big to do that, and that's understandable. Let's go ahead and, well, first, Storm, do you have any thoughts in terms of, fighters, when they just got to know when to call it a day pretty much or career?
Yeah, it's tough to call that for certain fighters because they wouldn't be in there doing it for free. You know what I mean? So it's like some of these guys, it's a means of feeding their families. But when a guy is visibly showing the effects of it may be time to hang it up, I think it's imperative that the men who work their corners have those conversations, and that they, if they're still young enough to be around the gym, they can transition into being a second for somebody or being a cornerman or whatever, just to keep the thriving. And I mean, of course, it's not the same payday or whatever, but I just hate to see guys who are staying on too long, because even when you see that visual effect that they're losing something, it's 10 years down the line that what you see now is going to be worse, So it's like it's a tough business, man. It's a tough way to make a living, but you should always tell a fighter, a cornerman, should always let a fighter know when of course it's the fighter's final decision, but don't go out there like you don't see what's happening. It's a tough way to make a living, and when it's over, it's tough to hang them up because you may not be ready to hang them up financially. Like I said, nobody's doing it for free.
I definitely agree, man. And you guys make sure to take a look at the calendar here. Tomorrow we will have Hispanics Causing Panic here with G-Funk. Make sure you tune into that. We'll have 97 Ruff, who's making his YouTube return after all these years. All right, so make sure you guys check that out tomorrow. And Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens on Thursday. Okay, so there you go. You're listening to Aftermath right now, the March 10th edition. And don't forget to throw a jab at the like button. I'm being joined by Stormy B-Man and Curtis Anderson. Stormy segues into Jefe Jabba, dominating Razvan. He stopped him in the 9th round. Pretty much everyone kind of expected that, but where does Jefe Jabba go from here? Do you think he's ready for the next level?
No. And I say no because of how he's going about his work right now. But I also stress, for him, what's the rush? And if they want to talk about his age or something like that, heavyweights can mature late, see Lennox Lewis. But the thing about it is, you want to give him as much seasoning on boxing ability as you can. I watched them rush a young guy who had athleticism and possibly some ability in Michael Grant years ago. And, once they put you up on that big stage, there's no ladder to walk back down. You stay up there until you get knocked off of it. And he got knocked off of it pretty quick, Michael Grant did. And I think it was only because they kind of rushed it. They looked at him, they looked at his physique, they saw he had a nice right hand when he would throw it, and they say, oh, there's some home cooking here. But with the lack of amateur experience that he had, not really being in the ring and getting accustomed to certain things that take place in the ring, even in amateur fights, it hurt him, and it hurt him badly. So Ajaba, he's a big man, and he's not old. You know, he's a young guy. It's like, why rush it? Why rush it? If he, hey, listen, I think it was George Foreman might have had 29 or 30 fights before he challenged for the world title, something like that. Kurt would know that better than me. But you know, the more fights you have under your belt, the more times you're under those lights, the more opportunities you have to face different types of opposition. It all adds to you being more successful. I mean, we could look at the current WBC champion, former WBC champion in Deontay Wilder. He had a lot of knockouts, but not a lot of exposure to certain things that can take place and transpire in the ring. And you just are not going to knock out everybody. You're not. So to be able to face different styles, different types of opposition, people who aren't going to go nowhere, people who are going to hit you back, people who are going to run from you, people who are going to try to hunt you down, all of those type of circumstances. Just because he's a tall guy and he's a big boy, there's a lot of fighters out there that don't mean nothing. As soon as they hit you on your chin, everything can change. So, no, I don't think he's ready for that next level, but I also don't think they should rush it. The more that they put in the foundation of building him, the more steady he'll be when they put him out there.
Well said, man. Curtis Anderson, what did you think about his performance, against Razvan? And do you believe he's ready for the next level?
No, I see weaknesses at Jogba. I thought he'd be more further along in his career. I'm waiting for him to step in the ring with somebody who's going to fight back. They're trying to give him certain opponents to make him look good, to give him some work. When he fought Kownacki just didn't have the ability to fight back. He was knocked down in his last fight. I just think that a heavyweight that goes in the ring and throws a straight right hand, and something tells me he doesn't have the best chin. I just got that in the pit of my stomach, the way he was knocked down. Something is missing with a Jogba, and sometimes that thing that's missing, that's called an intangible, and that's something you can't teach. But I just want to see what happens if he gets in trouble, and as he punching, somebody is punching back. So I want to see, how he handles that. Dubois is fighting Joyce. That's a good fight. And somewhere along the line, the winner and the Jogba should meet up, So he will be tested. The more he fights, he'll step up in competition, and I just want to see, he's not the fastest heavyweight. He has a good straight right hand himself, but I think a counter puncher will give him problems. So he's not ready, but, keep him busy, put him in with the right people. Maybe he'll get better, and see what happens. But I can't make an assessment right now. I do see weaknesses. Well, maybe he will learn and get better, but that remains to be seen.
Very well said, man. And I agree with you guys. Hefe Jaba, a couple, if you would have asked me 5-6 fights ago, I would have thought by now, I would be saying, yeah, he's ready for the next level, a couple more fights for a title shot. But right now, and like Stormy says, he's not that old or anything. He's got time, to kind of get a little more seasoned, because I see a lot of defensive deficiencies with him. So we will see where he goes from here. It is good, by the way, to see Fox really concentrate on heavyweights. I mean, they're really highlighting heavyweights a lot. They're covering heavyweight boxing in a way that we have not seen sports media just in general cover heavyweight boxing. So
yeah. There's one thing I like to offer also with the Ajaba situation.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with putting him in there with somebody who's going to give him rounds, because, and that doesn't mean give rounds and then lose to him or bow out, but who's going to create opposition, because that's the only time you really learn. You know, it's like one of the things that I've talked about on my channel a lot, you know, especially when I do my little breakdown videos and stuff, is that these trainers and managers of today, they want to always showcase their fighter looking good. Well, that's fine, but you also have to have him learn some things along the way, and you can't learn much by knocking out guys who are setups for you to blow over like bowling pins. So if he's in there with guys and he's struggling a little bit, he's got to get what? Revert to boxing and learn how to win a round. You understand? It's like you hitting a guy and he goes. You didn't learn anything. You learned that you can hit him and he goes. But what about that guy who can hang in there for several of those rounds and be hitting you back when you get tired? Your body is hurting a little bit from being pounded on. And you start to think, you start to have a little pressure. That's what's going to bring guys through. They have to understand that. You know, you can find a blue chipper every once in a while, but that's only every once in a while. These other guys, you got to school them up.
Absolutely. We're gonna see where it goes, man. Because I know it was the last fight, right? He got hurt and dropped. Wasn't it just his last fight?
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
His last fight, he got knocked down.
Yeah.
I thought it was almost out in that fight, you know, but
it looks shaky.
So see, he's got to clean that up for sure. But we will see, man, because the higher you go in class, the more dangerous things get. So there's better counter punches as you move up in class. So we'll see where Jefe Jabba goes from here. I want to give a shout out to Trigger, Happy, Jay in the chat. What's going on, Mr. Tiptoe, Teresa D, John on here. Raw Boxing TV. How's it going, bro? Boxing Conversation with Reggie Owens, BFTB. Shout out to you guys. I appreciate the support. Make sure you throw a jab at the like button. Stay tuned. We have some more to talk about here. Stormy segues into Sanchez, routing Deveco in a unanimous win, unanimous decision victory.
Yeah, you know, what's interesting about fights like this, man, is that when these fighters come together and they have to face off somebody, and it's funny, you talk about segue. I was just talking about this about Ajaba. When you're in there and somebody's competing with you, you have to learn how to take rounds. You have to learn how to persevere and overcome. It's like nobody's just going to lay down when they're in a competitive match, but it has to come a point when somebody says, I want this. I want to take this. And in this fight, you could see these guys are fighting like that, but at the same time, who is really wanting to take it from the other? I don't know. When I'm watching these kind of matches, I feel like somebody should be definitive at some point. Somebody should really be showing, I want this. I'm used to seeing that. But I would like to ask Kurt, what does he think about that? Because as we see these guys in these matches like this, you know, sometimes there's a point where a guy can step on the gas. And I just did a show just tonight about closing the show and show that they want it and they want to take it from the other. What did you think about that, Kurt?
Everybody know I'm a historic guy. I'm kind of hard on today's fighters because it has a lot deeper meaning than just being a good fighter in the rings of character of men. I was not impressed by Frank Sanchez. I've seen him numerous times. He's a small heavyweight. Deweco couldn't get off for whatever reason. I'm just not impressed. These guys has to show me more. That's why I'm looking forward to the Dubois and Joyce fight, because those two guys are the leading candidates to step up to the next level. And I give kudos to both men for taking that fight. We don't get fights where they test themselves against undefeated fighters. It kind of reminds me of Ray Mercer and Tommy Morrison. We used to get those type of fights on the regular. So hats off to Joyce and Dubois. But Sanchez, Ajagba, Lonnie Franklin, I'm not impressed with none of those heavyweights. They're sloppy. Maybe they'll get better, but I just don't see if I don't see those heavyweights, Frank Sanchez being a major player in the game, maybe a stepping stone, but there's not a guy out there who's a young heavyweight says, you know what, this is my time. I'm here to take over the sport of boxing. I don't see that like I used to see. So, they're gonna have to prove me wrong, because I'm not impressed with none of these new heavyweights. Frank Sanchez, Franklin, Herkovic is big and strong, but he slow as molasses. So certain people are high on him, but I just don't see it. I don't like the new crop of heavyweights.
I mean, look, I saw the fight, man. I mean, Sanchez won. Deveco, I mean, I'm a little familiar with him, not that much, but here's what's sticking out to me. Okay. And I know there's Andy Ruiz, and we're going to talk about him in a little bit. Kownacki, okay, Deveco, right? Look, I know they're heavyweights, right? Before somebody tells me they're heavyweights, it doesn't matter. These style, it doesn't matter, these style. They don't make the weight, okay? They're heavyweights, but is it just me, or is it just a little too much here? I think this guy's got to get in better shape, bro. It's just me?
No, it's not just you. I see it, and I'm seeing it. I'm seeing too much of it that I don't like it, which is why I had decided I was going to start going in on guys like this. I'm not going to do it on your channel, but on my channel, I'm going to make a concerted effort to do it because, we live in a time now where nobody has any shame. It's like women don't have shame when they dress and they expose their bodies and stuff like this, and then turn around and get an attitude because somebody was yelling at them or whatever as they walk down the street with, far more skin showing than should be legal. And these guys, this guy and Kownacki on the scale, hanging over their trunks and stuff like that. You know what? You're telling me you don't respect the sport when you come in looking like that, because you look like you just got out of a bakery or something, eating a box of donuts. You know what I mean? And in boxing, that's one of the most realistic arenas for truth that you can find. And if somebody has a hard time putting you away and you in that type of shape, we have to question them too. You understand? Because somebody who's really fired up and ready to go, a guy like that shouldn't be able to handle you, because you're going to be doing all the right things that you need to do condition-wise, and not just physically being conditioned, but mentally being conditioned. I remember George Foreman remarked one time, and this was in his second career comeback, he said that guys who are drinking beers and partying can't beat me. He said, because I haven't had a party in over 10 years. And I understood what he was trying to say there. He was trying to say that in his comeback career, he was so focused and rededicated that if you cutting corners, you ain't going to last. And that's how guys should be put in a position here. They should not be allowed to try to last. If you're going to come in there looking like that, I'm going to show the world what a person who looks like that trying to get in here with me, what they're going to really look like. And that should be the philosophy. If I was in the other man's corner, I'm going to send him out there and I say, dog him, make him never want to put on another pair of boxing gloves. And the guy who is looking like that, he should take some pride in himself and try to get down and get in some real shape. Boxing condition shape, not just be in the shape of the circle or round.
I did come in shape. I came in the shape of a pear. All right, I'm good. But and I hear it a lot. The reason I say, these style, they're heavyweights. It doesn't matter because they don't have to make a weight. Like I get that, but a lot of these guys are not in their optimum weight, bro. Okay. And I think the fact that they don't have to make a scale weight is one of the reasons. But the fact that some of these dudes are just out of shape, or at least not in their best shape, putting it kindly, and they're still having a lot of success, it tells me a lot about the talent overall. in the heavyweight division. You know what I mean? But Curtis Anderson, what are your thoughts on, from the Areolas to the Kownackis, Ruizes? It's becoming more common, or is it just me, as far as the big boys?
Well, like Stormy said, I think it's disrespectful when you come in looking like a plumber. We could see your backside and your pants is down, and halfway your butt showing, and you're bending over fixing my drain. That's what Kownacki looked like, and Ruiz and Areola. This been going on for a long time. I thought that like the early '80s heavyweights, like Greg Page, they could fight, but they wasn't in shape. And Michael Doak sometimes, and he was mentally out of shape. But the heavyweight division has a history of guys not being in shape because you don't have to have a target weight like the other divisions. And Kownacki, the loose skin, you can see the love handles, man, and he just wasn't in shape. And I'm like, wow, and it resonates. This guy, if he would have won, would have been challenging Joshua for the WBA heavyweight title. So not only you missed your shot, but you messed up a lot of money, millions. He would have got 6 or 7 million, maybe a little bit more. So he messed up his shot. So he goes in the back of the line, and the great Robert Helenius, beat him, knocked him out 1-2, right down the pipe, boom, boom. But these heavyweights, like I said, I'm very hard on them. I'm not used to seeing his lack of talent. Guys was in shape, they was muscular, without lifting weights, like Ken Norton and Mike Weaver and Jimmy Thunder. Those guys have physique. Mike Williams, who fought Buster Douglas on the Tyson and Spinks undercard. Those guys had like 5% body fat, maybe 7%. When you look at Mike Weaver, he was just naturally strong and had a physique. Ken Norton, and that's what I'm used to. So, it's like you go from the penthouse to the outhouse. So it's hard to get used to, but that's what we have. That's what we have. It's just like I was listening to the radio the other day, D Style, Stormy, and Chat, and I'm like, man, this music sucks, man. I'm used to Earth, Wind, and Fire and Stevie Wonder and Al Green and people like that, and I can't even tell you. It's in boxing, it's just like that because I'm an old school guy, and I'll be the first one to say, man, this guy can fight. This guy can really fight. But if he can fight, he's out of shape. But with Kownacki, he's poorly trained, out of shape, and can't fight. So it's a triple whammy. So this is what it comes to. Inept heavyweights who look like plumbers and handymans.
A-Rod says they have to weigh in like that because of how tall they are. If they try to get in shape, they would be in lower weight class. I'd rather you be in shape and be a cruiserweight, right, than show up like that. I'm just saying, if there was just one or two guys like that, okay. But I'm just seeing a little too much. And too many fans are giving it a pass and just saying, hey, they're big guys. It doesn't matter. It does matter, right? Andy Ruiz found that out the hard way in the rematch with Joshua, right? And that's that. Okay. Speaking of big guys, Kownacki came out. There was almost 9,000 people at the Barclays, mainly Polish. All right, excited about Kownacki coming out, and he looks good for the first round. Then it gets competitive. Then Helenius starts landing haymakers on him as well. Kownacki's feeling them. I thought he was going to get knocked out in the third. Somehow he made it out of that one, and then Helenius came back and just put a beating on him in that fourth round. And yeah. He beat the shit out of him. Kownacki had the body of a toddler, bro. Okay? This dude looked like an overgrown toddler, right? Fighting his dad or something. And Helenius knocks him out in the fourth round, or they stopped the fight, TKO. How did you see that fight, Curtis?
I wasn't surprised because he's the third hometown fighter that lost. It was Jared Hurd, and then it was J Rock. So the curse continues. Now is Kownacki, and that's been in boxing. You get comfortable, you get tickets to family and friends. Before the fight, show Kownacki in the Polish community in Brooklyn, going to the bakery and restaurant, eating with his friends. It's very dangerous when you do that, because even when you think you're not relaxed, you're too relaxed. You're around family and friends, and you're not prepared properly. Boxing becomes mental. It's like, I'm gonna get back to Kownacki right now. It's like you can see. I'll give you a perfect example. Deontay Wilder, sleeping on his wife's shoulder. You don't do that. You separate friends and family, your kids. You separate from that, and you're supposed to be all business. We call that cupcaking. When you with your wife and you can't get away from her, she shouldn't have been in the locker room. But just like Kownacki, he was just too relaxed. You could see his wife going crazy after he got pummeled, and being out of shape, but physically, but too relaxed mentally and psychologically. I mean, the Polish fan base is very underrated. I'm in Newark, New Jersey. I live 2 blocks from the Prudential Center. When Thomas Adamek fought, I had a pleasure of meeting him. Nice guy, the boy, they used to come out in droves, and it's a very underrated fan base. The Canadians and the Polish. We know about the great Mexican fan base and the UK fan base. American fans are funny style. They really are. You have to be almost a celebrity to get support. But I wouldn't have fought at home, but they sell tickets. Like you said, D-Style was almost 10,000 people, 9,000 people, but he's poorly trained. He's open for every punch, and that was a knockdown. Helenius hit him with a short check hook, and Kownacki went down on one knee, and he said slip. And I told myself, I said, Helenius, you better knock him out because you're going to get robbed. He was getting robbed, no question about it. So I'm glad he knocked him out. And Kownacki needs a different trainer, man. I mean, he's wide open, man. You could throw a beer bottle in the ring and hit Kownacki, but that's just how I feel about it.
Kownacki, he got dropped. I want to give a shout out to Trill Boxing Talk, Black Fight Fan TV. Finally caught you live, homie. Great panel, D-Style. Salute to you, brothers. Thank you for all the Trill, genuine content. Absolutely. Shout out to Black Fight Fan TV, Trill Boxing Talk, the D-Style Boxing Channel of the Year, 2019. All right. I appreciate that, bro. Absolutely. All right. Man, I don't know what it is about Kownacki. And like, I remember I told people just a couple months ago when I saw he was like an 11-1 favorite against Areola, and I said, he's a favorite, but he's not 11-1 favorite. Like Areola's gonna land leather on him, and he did land leather on him, right? And I thought, like, that's crazy. Like, you put $20 on that, like, you're gonna make money if Areola wins. And the fact that Areola went the distance with him, this is way past Areola, and I never been that high on Areola to begin with, right? So I knew Kownacki was a knockout waiting to happen. Okay, he was literally a knockout waiting to happen. And then at heavyweight, dude, you're a knockout waiting to happen in any division if you're getting lit up every fight. Okay, but at heavyweight, dude, you can't just take the blunt force power of everybody, right? And here he got knocked out, okay, by a dude that looks like an extra out of Sons of Anarchy and shit. Okay, who gets knocked out, bro? Okay, by a biker, dude, right? But Stormy, how'd you see it, man? The Son of Anarchy dude knocked him out, bro. He should have showed up to the ring with the bike, bro.
Listen, man, I knew Kownacki was in trouble in the first round when the Nordic god there, or whatever they call him, he hit him with an uppercut to the belly, and Kownacki said, "Ugh." I said, uh-oh, because it was the first round. And I'm like, dude, you just let him know that you ain't going to be here long. And that's exactly how it played out, because he made a noise when Helenius threw this uppercut to his belly. And it was kind of in the mid to later portion of the first round. And I was like, oh, he's in trouble. And what I really loved about Helenius is this. You know, he has an amateur background. You know, he wasn't a star or anything like that.
Yeah.
But he learned how to throw his punches. And he kept the principle. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. While Kownacki was coming like this, roundhouse, he was coming straight up the middle and walking him into him. And I had heard someone remark, talking about the fight, you know, listening to post-fight comments and stuff. Someone remarked that, man, you know, the knockdown that they call the slip. He said, man, that didn't even look like it landed there. It looked like it barely glazed him. He don't have a chin. I was like, dude, you don't know boxing. It's like you don't have to throw a hard shot if you hit somebody in the sweet spot.
Right.
And he threw like a 5-punch combination that started off with a left hook that hit Kownacki on top of the head. Then he followed with a right to the jaw, another left, and then another right to the jaw. And dude went down. And that was the knockdown that the ref ruled the slip. But it was a clear knockdown because that right hand that landed on the chin, that's what took his legs from him. And if anyone had any doubt about that, the very next punch that put him on his behind was another right to the chin. And he fell like I remarked when I talked about it, I said he looked like a guy that fell off the top of a ladder that was up there reaching in the cabinet for some peanut butter cups or something, because he fell backwards, couldn't catch himself, and like a ton of bricks. Just like in your photo there, that's him falling like that ton of bricks. But he had been hit with straight punches. You don't have to put a lot on straight punches, especially if a guy is pursuing and, you know, you're a big man already, 6'9" or whatever he is, 6'6", and just throwing them, letting them go. He walking right into it. He had no head movement. He had no upper body movement. He was just plodding forward. And he got exactly what he deserved. Because, again, this is another person that we could look at. He may have been a good bar fight guy, you know, brawling, you know, on a Saturday night or something over a beer. You understand? But this is boxing. And in boxing, there's no timeouts or nothing like that. Your boys can't break it up and all of that. And you can end up like he did on his back. You see, now you got two choices. You could either go and try to get some skills to add to what you're trying to do, or you could go back to the bars, because that's where you can be a legend. But out here, you're going to be a smear on the canvas, because he has absolutely no boxing ability. None.
I want to ask you this. Right now, the leader of the pack of the biker gang, what do they call them? The Hell's Angels, all right? This dude just knocked out Kownacki. Now, we know Gerald Washington knocked him out, but Gerald Washington just lost, okay, to, oh, my God. What's his name again?
Charles Martin.
Charles Martin, I apologize. He just lost to Charles Martin. Stormy, what about Martin versus Helenius? I think that's a good matchup right now.
A very good matchup. And I think that a matchup like that for Charles Martin right now would be excellent for Martin, because I think Martin is starting to come into himself. I saw something in the Gerald Washington fight that impressed me. And it wasn't so much about the action, but it was about his attitude. Remember, him and Washington came up through that heavyweight program out there in California, where they just took all those big guys and brought them in and trying to bring them into boxing and everything. So they spent a lot of time together sparring and stuff. So they were familiar with each other. And that's the dangerous thing about familiarity with guys in boxing. It's like you might have done so many rounds together. You know, you're familiar, but you may not try to do your best or whatever. And at some point in that fight, the light went off in Martin's head and said, "Forget this. I'm a whoop him. I'm gonna go get him." And he did that to Gerald Washington. And that left that he hit him with separated him from his senses. It was a very clean punch, a very hard and intense punch, the kind of punch that I was expecting him to be throwing at AJ when he faced AJ a few years ago. And so now it's telling me, because, you know, if you look at his fight with Kownacki, he kind of woke up against Kownacki round 6 and realized, hey, I should be whooping this guy's butt. But he had run out of rounds, you know, and the fight was a lot closer. He could have still got that decision, but he didn't start early enough and he didn't assert himself enough. And I think he realized that. And now we're going to see a different type of a guy. Plus, he's seeing the titles changing hands at the top of the division. So the fact that he lost, it's not as bad as when you see so many guys running around with O's on their record and you be like, man, I lost and these guys are undefeated. Now you're like, hey, they like me. They suffered a loss too. So guess what? Everybody could take a loss in the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
Now, I believe Martin has been invigorated by what he's seeing and what he's feeling about himself. He even had something to say this week, you know, about this glove incident and stuff. He's like coming out. He's talking more now and stuff, instead of being with that questionable behavior that we saw from him a few years ago after he lost to AJ. I like those kind of things because that will help this division stir up. Okay. And I'm going to tell you something. They better watch that guy because he can fight. But I think with him, it was always about his confidence and everything. And I think he's coming into himself, and he's a southpaw too, and he can pop. So, hey, how about him? And what's his name? King Kong.
Okay, yeah. A lot of great matchups, yeah.
Yeah.
They're well set. Curtis Sanderson, what do you think about a potential Helenius fight with Martin?
It's a good matchup, but the WBA might promote Helenius since he beat Kownacki as the mandatory contender for the WBA, and that's a perfect fight for Hearn and Joshua, you know, after Joshua knocks out Pulev, you know, because they feed off opponents. I mean, Helenius is the perfect opponent because they're confident they can beat him. Helenius is coming off an upset victory, so that's perfect for them. I mean, Helenius people would be like, why should we fight Martin, where we've been promoted to the mandatory challenger to the heavyweight title, WBA, because they did say the winner of this is an elimination bout. The winner, you know, has the inside track of fighting for the WBA world title, you know. So what, Helenius is going to fight Martin for less money, and there's a good chance he may lose that fight because he keeps his chin in the air, the Nordic Nightmare, or we go to England and fight for millions of dollars and try to upset Joshua. So I think they will take the latter. You know, boxing is a business. You know, it's sad because I don't like Ortiz management. They move him too slow. You know, Ortiz only has the 2 Wilder defeats to show for it, but he should have been in the mix. Now he can't, you know, Ortiz, you know, he can't make these guys fight him, you know, but his management team should have been more aggressive and put him out there more. You know, I think they missed this opportunity because each day Ortiz is getting older and older, and the 2 knockouts don't help. But if the WBA said, well, we want you to fight Martin, that's a good matchup, Charles Martin and Robert Helenius. You know, the winner will have the inside track to the WBA title, and Martin will fight Joshua in a rematch because he made $7 to $8 million, and you know, against Joshua. You know, that's a career high payday. You know, but you know, it seems like he's coming on. He has a lot of momentum, so I wouldn't mind seeing that fight. You know, but I got a feeling, you know, Helenius might be in line to fight Anthony Joshua after Joshua knocks out Pulev, on June 20th.
And more than likely, he will knock him out. Shout out to Eurasian Failure. What's going on to you, man? I hear you about the Polish fans. They're definitely loyal, and they show up. No doubt about that. Shout out to Marisa Chavez, A-Rod. We got Trill Boxing Talk on here. And Chicano Prophet mentioned that Adamek had a decent fan base. They'll show up. You know what I mean? They'll definitely show up. They'll support. Look, man, Kownacki, are you guys giving up on Kownacki, or do you think he could make a comeback? Stormy, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm giving up on him. I don't like too many pastries anyway. So, he can find something else to do, man, because boxing ain't his thing. He going to run into so many punches, man. That guy's going to be talking like he got mashed potatoes in his mouth 5 years from now. They should take him out the sport. I'm serious. It's like he's a punching bag. If you think about how he was getting hit in that fight, what is he doing when he's training? Answer that question right there. Now, for those that say, well, maybe in sparring he's not. The only way he ain't getting hit like that in sparring is if they telling him don't punch him in the face. And they're not telling him that because you heard him when Helenius punched him in the body. He said, ugh. So it's like they ain't hitting him in the body in the gym either. So he can go find something else to do. You understand? There'll be another Polish guy come along. Galata was out there before he was. So there'll be another guy that they can put some trunks on and push into the ring. But he's done. He wasn't supposed to get out of that fight with Martin. Martin just, like I said, he came on late and everything, and he realized, it's like a light switch going off with certain people. They say, what the? And then they go in and they kicking the other guy's butt. I think that's going to be Martin going forward. Now, that's not to say he's going to smoke through people, but he's going to be a much difficult puzzle to solve going forward because he realizing he belongs. But certain guys, like Kownacki, he don't need to be in there. And I'm tired of people putting our fighters down, not giving them the credit that they deserve, and then trying to plug falsehoods like that in the mix. He don't need to be in there. He's a tomato can. That's what he is. Kownacki is a bum. I said it. He a bum. Get him out of there. Let Helenius go in there and fight the other guys, and let's move on from here and not talk of him no more.
And for some reason, YouTube is telling me that I'm posting spam on my channel. That's kind of weird, but that's another story. Curtis, man, what are your thoughts on Kownacki?
Well, what killed me is that they was trying to promote this guy as the tough guy, and I believe one of them said legendary chin. They like those kind of fighters. The bouncer. Throw a beer bottle in the ring and hit him right on the chin. That style doesn't last. And Kownacki can improve because a fighter will show you who they are. He's the opposite of scientific. He liked being in Pier 6 brawls and trying to impose his will on you. But when you get hit like that from a big man, we seen he was all over the place. There was a poem that we used to recite in grammar school, and this is what Kownacki remind me of. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, and that's Adam Kownacki. And like I say, he was poorly trained because he don't keep his hands up. He wads in, and his chin is right there to be hit. His body is square. You can't miss it. When your shoulders are square, you're giving your opponent a target to zing in. With a straight left or straight right hand down the pipe. He couldn't miss Kownacki. But he may be in another fight because Fox likes him personally. They're gonna give him another chance because of the Polish fan base is going to support him. And Fox love that rock'em sock'em style. They're gonna put him in with somebody they know he can beat to get his confidence back. But as soon as he step up, in competition, he will be knocked out again.
And all the King's horsemen and all the King's men will probably never put Kownacki back together again. Right? He ain't never going to be a champion. I can tell you the guys that right now. Personally, you guys ever see The Dark Knight when the Joker, breaks that pull stick? It has two pointy ends and he throws it in the ground and he lets two guys fight it out. One of you will live. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just put Andy Ruiz versus Kownacki. Let's do it. All right. Loser leaves town match. All right. And but that's who I think they should put Kownacki up there next with. Ruiz says he wants a tune-up. A lot. Ruiz was calling him out before the Joshua fight, so that's a fight they could do. It'll be exciting as it lasts. I think Ruiz picks him apart. But what do you think about that matchup, Stormy?
Talking about Ruiz and Kownacki?
Yes, and not at the buffet line, and in the boxing ring.
No, well, Ruiz has already proven that he can fight. See, Ruiz has not been put in that position where, like, I just made a comment in the chat to Reggie Owens when he was remarking about me as, ain't no bums in boxing. OG, you might want to rethink that because you don't know boxing. But to say what I said, there's no place for tough guys in boxing. There's not, because the moment the guy is thinking he's in there proving that he's tough, he's gonna get hurt. Okay, fighting and boxing is a hurt business, and the more that a guy knows how to fight, the more the other guy could get hurt. You understand? So with a guy like Andy Ruiz knows how to fight. He's been boxing since he was a small kid. He's got fast hands. He beat the heavyweight champion of the world. Okay. He beat bigger men than Kownacki, like that big Ukrainian dude that he knocked out before he fought Joshua. Yep. It's like he knows how to fight. He knows how to use distance. He knows how to get in and out. And don't forget, he sparred my favorite fighter, Evander Holyfield, when Evander was 45 years old. And Andy Ruiz was the guy that made Evander get away from this kid. This kid's got hands. He's cutting the ring off. He's all over me. He was like, and that's the first guy that I ever sparred that I couldn't get away from. And that's Andy Ruiz. And the kid was only 19 years old when he fought, when he was working with Evander in the gym. So no, Kownacki is just another one of those guys. I correctly described him as a tough guy. He probably won some fights in school and in the bars and stuff like that. But this is the sweet science, man. And the more that a guy is trained how to whoop you and hurt you, the more hurt you're going to be. You understand? That's why he looked like that against Helenius, because Helenius has a background. He knows how to fight. He might not be the most eye-pleasing guy, but he has reach and size. He knew how to use it, keep himself safe. Yeah, Andy landed some shots, but who ended up going out? You know what I'm saying? The night before that fight, I said, you always leave a window open for a banana peel, okay? Because somebody's going to slip on it, okay? And that's exactly what happened. Kownacki slipped on that banana peel, and there's not much he can do to get better. He's not even getting in shape first. So I wouldn't worry about him. I really wouldn't.
Well, there you go, man. Curtis, you have any thoughts on, Ruiz fighting Kownacki?
I'm just going to say this make it short and sweet, is that Ruiz is a lot better than Kownacki, and he should win going away, stopping him, because like Stormy said, he has fast hands. So if they do fight, I like Ruiz, maybe, about 5 or 6 rounds, to be honest with you, because I don't think Kownacki's chin is all that good. And the network tried to build this guy up talking about legendary chin, and we all saw Saturday night what happened. So I would expect Ruiz to TKO Kownacki.
Well, Sid, you guys are tuning into Aftermath March 10th edition. Make sure you throw a jab at the like button. We're about to start a puncher's chance here. I want to give a shout out to Ashy Knuckles, who is in Jamaica. All right, the dude's in Jamaica, all right, chilling. All right, but
Yeah, I saw his video. He looked like he's in another world, man. He looked good over there.
Well deserved, by the way. He works hard, man. Ash is a hardworking dude.
Yeah.
The time he has to come on YouTube and talk boxing, he does. He comes here on Tuesdays to do it. You know what I mean? So I do appreciate that. And make sure you guys visit mandatorydefense.com, his website, support his website, check it out, give it some clicks. And if you happen to click on an ad, things happen. You know what I mean? But no pa boxeanos. I appreciate that super chat. I appreciate everyone's support to the channel. Stay put. Make sure you throw a jab at the like button if you're listening on archive as well, by the way. Okay, archive's been picking it up. I appreciate it. Marissa Chavez says she agrees Ruiz gets him in 5 or 6. I think Ruiz beats his ass just like he did Alexander Dimitrenko. That's that Ukrainian guy he fought. I think was he Ukrainian? I'm not sure, but that's the guy you were thinking about there, Stormy.
Yes, sir.
So with that said, all right, since this is a 2-in-1 show, all right, and bam, just like that, okay. So anyway, now you're tuning into a puncher's chance, same show, all right, guys. I want to talk about Shakur Stevenson. All right, is a young man that I'm very high on. He's 13-0, 7 knockouts. That's a 53% KO ratio. 5'8", 68-inch reach, and he's a southpaw. All right, he's going against Miguel Marriaga, the Scorpion. Okay, he's ranked number 48 in the world according to BoxRec. He's 29-3, 25 wins coming by way of knockout. 25 of his wins coming by way of knockout. Okay, that's a 78% KO ratio. He's 5'8", 6'7", 67-inch reach, and he's orthodox. They got pretty much the same dimensions. Only one's orthodox, one southpaw, and there's a 1-inch each reach advantage by Stevenson. And look, Marriaga, since he basically quit in the stool against Lomachenko, he's won 4 straight. He stopped those 4 opponents. He's a guy that's when he wins, he usually stops you. Miguel Marriaga, Kurt Sugar. Does he have a puncher's chance in this fight?
Any fighter has a chance. We saw that February 10th, 1990, Douglas Tyson, 42-1 underdog. It only takes one shot. I've seen some bizarre things, but Shakur is getting better. I just think that Shakur is too good of a boxer. His pedigree is high, Olympics, being around Terence Crawford and Andre Ward. People don't realize when you're around great fighters like that, man, your confidence is through the roof. He's a good boxer. He's still learning. He's still green. Marriaga is a good test for him because he's rough and tough. He's going to throw bombs at Shakur. And, I know his family because we're from the same town, Newark, New Jersey. I remember him, walking through downtown, his father, uncles, and what have you, his mother. Shakur is not there yet, but like I said, Marriaga is a good opponent. And this is how you hone your skills, by fighting good, tough journeyman, a guy that can give you some work. And I'm not talking about sparring, because fighting under the lights is different than sparring. It's a different energy. I think Marriaga is the perfect opponent, for Stevenson, because he's going to come at Stevenson and throw bombs. And, Stevenson looks the part. Is he the part? I don't know yet, and just because he's from my hometown, that doesn't mean I'm going to give him a pass. He has to prove to me that he's the part. It looks like a Rolls Royce, drives like one, but we're not sure it is one. So, we'll see Saturday night. I think it's a good test. If he beats Marriaga in impressive fashion, then I will be impressed. He's on his way. But with all that being said, one left hook by Marriaga on the chin or right hand could change everything. So I like Stevenson by unanimous decision, but there's lurking danger because Marriaga will test him. But Stevenson feet is too good. His pedigree, he seems to be at a right place. He's one of the good young fighters that's coming up. So I like Stevenson by unanimous decision over Marriaga.
All right. I mean, that sounds like a really good breakdown, man. And I agree with you. I think Miguel Marriaga has a shot. Every fighter, usually they run into that one fighter that no one really expects someone to give them a shocking moment. Even Andre Ward on his way up. I forget the name of the opponent. He hurt several guys actually. He hurt Ward, almost had him out of there. Ward survived the round, then he came back and won the fight, obviously. But
was that Darnell Boone?
I believe so. Yeah. Was he the guy that hurt several fighters?
Sergey Kovalev, Andre Ward knocked him down. Yeah, he was a journeyman that could fight.
Yeah, and like he had a hell of a resume of hurting several fighters, and I kind of obviously I don't want Stevenson to get hurt on purpose or any nonsense like that, but I kind of want to see that moment. Like every fighter goes through it, and I wonder if it's going to be this fight where they're going to clock him, he's going to feel it, and he's not going to be all there for a moment or two, and we're going to see how he responds. Like, will he pass that test? And Stormy, you think he's ready for that moment?
Well, against this guy, he's getting ready to fight. I don't think it's going to be a problem for him, but it's going to be a problem when he fights someone else like himself, who's athletic, who has some speed, who has some ability to move, and athleticism on his feet. I noticed that these guys are selecting certain fighters who lack the athleticism necessarily. Because, a guy who can punch, that's fine. But if he can't get the punches off because he can't catch up to a guy, or he doesn't have the athleticism to break down that movement that he's facing on the other side, that does present the problem, doesn't it? So what I see with Shakur is like, yeah, you're going to look good like that, but then let's see you against like someone like Gary Russell. Now, Gary Russell doesn't have a huge punch, but he has the athleticism, he has the hand speed, he has the boxing ability and boxing IQ. See, that's when you'll see what he has to offer, but you're not going to see much with him fighting with the tremendous upside against certain fighters, like his athleticism, his youth, his strength, and things like that, until it pairs off where somebody is offering the same on the other side. So now you have to figure how to defeat the opponent, because you got to bring more than what your physical gifts are and your youth. See, we used to see that more in the 90s and everything when these guys were coming up, because it's like everybody could fight. Everybody had, something to bring or whatever. Now they go to getting guys in the top 50 and everything, and you might see a guy with a lot of knockouts, but who was he knocking out? And who was he, facing to build that record and still have a few losses and stuff like that? So that's what you have to look at. But as far as a puncher's chance, possibly if he catches up to him, because you also don't knock out a lot of guys, without being able to, get a good punch off. So it's like, but I don't think they brought Shakur into this match to lose. But you never know. That's why I say it's never 100%. So you give them the puncher's chance.
Absolutely, man. And if say what you want about Top Rank, if there's one thing they're good at is matchmaking. Okay. And they're good at matching guys up well. Guys look really good on the way up. You know what I mean? But there's Josh Warrington. You also mentioned Gary Russell Jr., Stormy, Kid Gallahan. Those are just some names that are in his division. I want to see him in there with those names. Is there any of those names, Kurt Sugar, that you feel you like to see him in there, or who do you prefer to see him in there with?
I want to see him in there with Josh Warrington because a young fighter. I like to see young fighters get pushed, and Warrington's going to bring the fight to him, especially if it's overseas. See, this is where the danger, because young fighters fighting overseas, most times they're going to lose because you have to have mental toughness. It's a different feel when you're overseas, and because you're going to have to win in a definitive fashion. Because if they fight in England and Josh Warrington is pressing the fight, and he's throwing more punches than Stevenson, automatically he's going to get the nod. So I would like to see Warrington take on Stevenson if Stevenson gets past Marriaga. That'd be a good test for him, and I can really assess him where his career is going to be. Warrington throws a lot of punches. He's a volume puncher, and that will suit Stevenson because he can counterpunch and use his ability to land some pot shots. But if the fight is in the United States, it takes on a whole meaning. He can box more. But if it's in England, he cannot afford to box because when you fight overseas, you have to be aggressive. Like how Earl Spence was against Kell Brook. It was a tough fight, for first 6 rounds, and Earl Spence took it over. But when you're the boxer and the hometown fighter is throwing a lot of punches, usually you'll get the nod from the judges.
Absolutely, man. Those are some great matchups. And I like the Gary Russell Jr. one too. So there's fights to be made, man. And these featherweight fighters are fighting each other. We could have another boom in the heavyweight division. That's for sure. You guys have any further thoughts on Shakur Stevenson?
Yeah, I'll say this. The thing about the Russell Jr. fight, look at the tremendous upside if he defeats him. Because Russell is now the longest reigning champ. It was he and Wilder at first, but now it's him. So if he were to take on later this year Shakur Stevenson and were to lose to him, that really sets a highlight on Stevenson's path toward what could be, lined up for him in the future. And it's a great fight in boxing for those two guys. I don't know how easy it'll be to make it. I'm sure these networks can come together for a fight like that if they really wanted it. But that's what I look for. And like Kurt suggested about Warrington, it's like that's another one of those fights. And again, I would like to see it on the road because you have to challenge these guys, meaning the young prospects like a Shakur Stevenson. I would have preferred he fight a few more fights before getting the title that he got his hands on, because I just thought it was a little bit too early for him due to the lack of experience. I know he has fights under his belt, but fight experience, I don't think he has enough of that yet, which is why it's going to be very difficult for him if he has to go on the road, and that means like outside the U.S. or something, or if the environment has just not been, set up for him or whatever. But hey, man, these guys of today, it's like they get titles before they even learn how to fight. That's just the thing that I say so much. It's like, and that's why a lot of them don't hold on to the titles very long.
Absolutely, man. Do you have any final thoughts on Shakur Stevenson, Kurt Sugar?
Well, I do root for him because Newark is a boxing town. That's where I'm from. I used to train out of Newark gyms, and see Shakur Stevenson coming up. I'm really proud for him. He didn't get the gold medal, but we, threw him a parade when he came back from the Olympics. So it's really good to see a young fighter, getting his name out there. We can hold our hat on. I want to see him do well, but you're asking a lot for a young fighter to go into a foreign country to be the guy who throws a lot of punches, because that only thing that guy has to do is be aggressive. And, if they can make the fight in the United States, that's great for Stevenson. I would like to see him, he's fighting Marriaga. If he win, get Warrington, but no Gary Russell, too much experience. And that will be a little bit too much for him because Gary can fight. Build him up. Build him up. Don't move him too slow. Don't move him too fast. Let him get some rounds in. Let him hone his skill. Keep working with him, and he'll be all right because I see the talent. So he's close, not there yet, still green, but he looks promising.
Absolutely. You guys are tuning into a Puncher's Chance March 10th edition. Ashley cannot join us tonight, but make sure you visit mandatorydefense.com. Ashley will be back next week, and hopefully we can get Blood Boxing to join us on that show. Tomorrow, Hispanics Causing Panic with G-Funk. We'll have 97 Rough coming back to YouTube. Make sure you check that one out. And, of course, Boxing Conversation with Reggie Owens on Thursday, every Thursday. I want to talk about now that this is, of course, Shakur Stevenson is headlining on ESPN. I'm not even sure if it's ESPN or ESPN Plus, but we have Kirkland on FS1, and here are the two major sports networks showcasing boxing, which I think it's a good thing. Hopefully the fights deliver, of course. But James Kirkland is back. He'll be fighting Mike Anthony Hernandez. I've only seen Mark Anthony Hernandez fight one time. It was against Rosario, the same guy that beat J-Rock, by the way. Curtis Anderson, how do you see this fight playing out, man?
Well, I'm picking Martinez to beat Kirkland Saturday. I think Kirkland is way past his prime. No Ann Wolf. And he doesn't perform well when she's not there for some reason. He's been knocked out multiple times, man. And in boxing lore, it just he has too many strikes, man. So I'm going out on a limb. I've seen Martinez fight a couple of times against Rosario. So I'm picking Martinez for the upset on Saturday. I just think that Kirkland has seen his better days. Martinez is going to box him. I expect Kirkland to be rusty. He does have some pop, but those days against Angulo or, long gone. He was put to sleep by Canelo and, Shida, the Japanese guy. And, I just think that, I done seen this scenario a million times. So I like the fresher fighter. So I'm picking Martinez by TKO, maybe 8 rounds.
Okay. Man, that's interesting. And what's weird is that I don't know how to feel because Kirkland did fight twice, but it was basically a bunch of nobodies. You know what I mean? But, in 2019, I didn't recognize the names anyway. And this is a step up compared to the guys he was fighting. James Kirkland, I mean, this guy could have been a huge star. And from I've been trying to gather, I hear he's not going to have Van Wolf. If anybody could confirm that in chat, that'll be appreciated. But the fact that Ann Wolf won't be there, the fact that, as you mentioned, Curtis Anderson, he got knocked out brutally a couple years back against Canelo, and even before that, he got knocked out in previous fights. So I don't know how to feel about Kirkland being. I'm going to pick Kirkland, and maybe that's wishful thinking. And maybe I'm hoping, we could get some, James Kirkland back or some, but I think we're going to find out early in that fight in the first 2-3 rounds if it's the old James Kirkland or a washed up James Kirkland. If he looks kind of like Scott Quigg did against Carroll, not worse. So Stormy, what are your thoughts on James Kirkland coming back, and do you have any optimism that he can get a W here?
Well, I don't foresee it being. I don't foresee it being a successful run for Kirkland at this time. I think, as Curtis said, his time has passed him, and it's a shame because fighters who have certain types of talent and they squander it or whatever with inactivity and different things that have set them aside outside the ring, antics and stuff, they become cannon fodder for other people because this is the one sport that will chew you up and spit you out when you waste your talent. And the thing about Kirkland also was his style was only geared for a small window to begin with. Fighters like him and the style that he fought in is very physical, and you have to optimize that in your youth. He's an aging out fighter now, and there are other guys that could do what he does better than him. And then he doesn't even have his trainer, Ann Wolf, who could also get the maximum out of him. And if she were around, she probably can only get only a few rounds of that out of him, if that, because he's aged, he's past the inactivity and the outside of the ring problems. That stuff adds up, man, and it's fast. You know, we all have gone about our lives, including covering the sport of boxing, and he hasn't been in that window in the past few years. So you now want to jump in and say, here I am, and get in there, and that guy is going to be going after him, trying to take him out, banging his body. Is going to hurt. I mean, I see darkness on. James Kirkland was the type of fighter that we like to tune in and watch. He was our Arturo Gatti.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it's tough, and it's a shame, but it is what it is, and you have to take the bitter with the sweet.
I know Tone Brown says he had 2 comeback fights. I see him winning by knockout. I mean, we will see, because this is a step up from, he'll be, again, he'll be on FS1, and we're going to see how that goes for him. Marita Chavez believes that he should have retired a while ago. A lot of people feel that way. It looks like Curtis Anderson dropped off there. Now, speaking of the last guy that beat Mark Anthony Hernandez, all right, speaking of that, Rosario, J-Rock opted to not take the rematch, Stormy. Was that
right?
surprising to you?
Can I ask a question, though, about the J-Rock fight with the guy that's going to be fighting Kirkland? Because I didn't see it.
Okay.
How did he fare against Rosario?
Who
The
Anthony
guy
Hernandez?
that Kirkland is about to fight, yeah.
He got stopped. He got stopped in I don't have the round. I think
Okay. The reason I asked that is because I didn't see it, and I just wanted to get an idea of, because Rosario is strong and he's much younger than Kirkland. So if it was like a middle round stoppage or something like that, Kirkland may be trying to go in and blow him out fast, and that could happen based on his experience. You know,
it was a 9th round knockout.
Or it's the 9th round. Okay. See, because that's the thing. Kirkland might have, depending on no cuts opening up or anything, he might have 4 to 5 rounds to work with. After that, that's going to be it. And if that guy can hang with him tough for that, the longer it's short, it'll be in favor of the other guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Now your question about J-Rock.
Yeah, man. Well, what do you think about him opting to not take the rematch with Rosario? You know, he could have rematched him.
Smart man. Smart man. Very smart man. Listen, his 2 losses were knockout defeats, but different types. The one against Charlo, that can happen to anybody. A punch you don't see is blind shot. But the one that happened with Rosario, he tried to wade in and go to war with the guy who was strong enough to face what he was bringing and everything, and he got pieced up, and next thing you know, he was out of there. He needs to reconsider how he's going to go about his career. He thought he could go in there and show some nuts, and guts, and let it hang out and see what happened. And that didn't fare well for him at all. By taking care of this scar tissue issue and knowing that that's going to give him an even longer duration to be away from the sport, because you can't spar and everything until everything heals up 100%. They may be looking to do a slow burn, and I don't mind that, because he's not an old guy, but he's got to get his discipline back. And when I say his discipline, I'm talking about being mindful of the things that he wasn't mindful in against Rosario. I felt like he let the cut bother him. He kept slapping at it and pawing at it or whatever. And then he got emotional and tried to say, well, I'm going to get tough. Well, remember I said in my comments to Reggie in the chat, I was saying tough guys get hurt in this sport. And he called himself here. You know, Rosario was still strong early on, and he didn't resort to boxing. You got to cut, allow your corners adjustments to your cut and everything, the medicine that they put in, allow it to go to work for you and start getting behind the jab, moving around, killing time, buying time, tie the guy up, take him longer, slow the fight down to your pace. He didn't do any of that. And he went in there and tried to fight while a guy was still stronger than him and everything. And he paid the price for it. So now they've had time to sit back and look at that film and everything. And they understand that at 154, that title can change hands every time those titles go on the line. So it's not like he's going to be invited. He's not going to be invited to another dance. But when he comes to that next dance, he's going to have some new moves, if you understand what I'm saying. So that is exactly a good thing for him. And kudos to him if they're doing it for the reasons that I'm talking about. So.
Well, Curtis Anderson, you there, bro?
Yes, sir. My phone's overheating, and these phones so smart. When they overheat, they turn off automatically. So I had to wait a couple minutes. You know,
Gotcha.
that's how I love boxing. All day, every day. I'm usually looking at a whole fight, but yeah. What was the question? I just came in on Stormy finishing up.
Yeah, we're just covering really quick, man. Because we finished talking about the Kirkland fight, but you know, Mark Anthony Hernandez, as you know, lost to Rosario. Rosario, as you know, beat J-Rock, and you know, J-Rock opted to not take the immediate rematch. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, certain fighters that lose in dramatic fashion, they go right back into the rematch, like Charlo did Harrison, and depending who the fighter is, where he's at mentally. Maybe he's think is a bad style matchup. You know, ironically, like Hurd and J-Rock. You know, Hurd didn't want the rematch, and J-Rock turned around, lose to Rosario. That guy is big and strong, man. You know, so maybe he needs some time off to get himself together. Maybe he sees something he didn't like or feel or whatever. So I don't know what's going to happen, but that's boxing. Style make fights, and if Rosario takes on Charlo, I like Charlo because Charlo feasts on fighters like that. That's aggressive and come forward. You know, that 54-pound division is a pool of sharks. I favor Charlo because I think that fight really helped him. You know, that loss, and for him to come back and beat Harrison like he did, he's in great shape. He can box and he can punch. Now his style has changed because early on he was a boxer. So when he knocked out Hatley, you know, and Lubin, he turned into a puncher because he found out he could punch. But unlike he's not a one-punch knockout artist, he put punches together, and he's in great shape because he throws everything hard, and he fights with a lot of intensity. But I would love to see Charlo and Rosario. That, you know, it's a round robin; they can fight each other. I believe Castano is fighting Teixeira. So you have a lot of good fighters. You can't forget the old pro Lara as well. So it's Castano and Teixeira. I want to see what Charlo going to do. Rosario, they can make that fight. J-Rock and Hurd. I didn't like how Hurd looked. You know, so I like the junior middleweights. But when the smoke clears, I believe that it's going to be Charlo that's going to be the last man standing.
But what are your thoughts on that, Stormy?
About how the whole division will shake out?
That the whole division, and do you believe Charlo, Jermell, will be the one coming out on top in the end?
Well, there's one contingency about Charlo coming out on top in the end, and that is if he's going to remember that he was a boxer first. He can't go in there with the mindset like, you know, he can just knock guys out like he's ultra powerful or whatever, because I think that at this division, there are a number of guys who are just kind of like what's going to separate them is their boxing IQ. You know, it's like you might have a good punch or whatever, but you're going to have to learn how to set the punch up. You're going to have to learn how to hide your power and, you know, attack a guy in the middle rounds instead of the early rounds, or try to take him out in the late rounds instead of the first rounds. You know, this is what we're not seeing when it comes to boxing, and seeing the guys being defined as complete fighters. And the ones who are able to do that will be able to, you know, come out on top. And I know that Jermell, he learned a lesson from how that decision went, but I hope it didn't turn him into a seek and destroy type guy, thinking he just got to knock everybody out and put the judges in his hands, as Marvin Hagler used to say, because he's not Marvin Hagler. He has to remember he's a pretty darn good boxer. And as long as you boxing, good things can happen. He has a decent enough chin, but when you go in there against somebody who knows what you bring, and, you know, they could set traps for you. So it's possible if he remembers that he's a good boxer. But if he's just thinking he's the man now, and he's going to go in there and knock out everybody, there's going to be a surprise on the horizon for him. And you can't call who it's going to be, because all of those guys are really evenly matched. It's about who makes a mistake. Like Harrison. Harrison made the mistake late in the fight, right? Because it looked like it could have been going for him. But he made a mistake. He kind of goofed around a little bit. He got caught, and that was it. That was it. You can't do that. You can't afford to do that when the stakes are so high. Lastly, don't forget, Lara is still there. And he could be a thorn in certain people's side for a short period of time, because he's the elder statesman, of course, but experience is a great teacher, man. And the guy has that experience under his belt, and he has guile. So it's like, it's not going to be easy for anyone.
I want to say something real quick. You know, Rosario, I think Charlo matches up well against Rosario, but he doesn't matches up well against Lara, you know, because Lara, you know, is a pure boxer, you know, and Charlo try to knock your head off, and that will play into the hands of Lara. So that's why I love boxing. 3 different guys, and, you know, 3 different styles, and they all can beat each other. I still say Charlo, you know, by edge, because you know, if he boxes more, it will help him. But I like him because he fights with a purpose, and he's determined. He was determined in that Harrison fight, but because you never know when Lara's going to get old. It can happen, you know, overnight. That's how it usually happens. It sneaks up on you. You know, he's a millisecond too slow, and a punch can land right on his chin. But you know, 154-pound division, you know, I want to see them fight each other. Could be like a round robin.
I agree with that, man. If these guys can all like fight each other, I'm all for it. You know, like, where's Don King when you need him? But because he would get that done. All right. Say what you want about Don King, but I want to kind of end it with this, because I didn't get a chance to do this video, but I was meaning to on Sunday, just didn't get around to it. But on March 8th, and I just know this because it's always the day before my birthday, Ali fought Frazier for the first time, Madison Square Garden. It was billed as the fight of the century. I just kind of want you guys' thoughts on that fight, and you know, and what do you know, just your overall thoughts about that fight, man. Stormy?
Man, the fight of the century it was. What a fight, man. Kurt can always set up the backdrop and everything, but I will tell you, I never saw Ali open a fight up and throw such hard, punishing punches at a person. I think he hit Frazier with everything he had in those opening rounds, because he was really trying to get him out of there. he talked all that talk and everything, but when the bell rang, he was fighting with venom, and he knew that his legs weren't under him as he would have loved them to be, and he was trying to send a message. Now, Joe was able to take that, but in the aftermath, like you show, the aftermath, in the aftermath, Joe spent a few weeks in the hospital. That was something to think about, because he took, I mean, that man walked through a lot. And in a 15-round fight, you know, Ali wasn't a huge, big puncher, but back then he had pop, and he was accurate. And Joe was blind in one eye. A lot of people didn't know that about Joe, but he was blind in one eye. So there was a lot of ebb and flow in this fight. To see Frazier actually hurt Ali, and Ali was like ready to go, and he started to clown, faking Joe, like overemphasizing his hurt, you know, his wobbly legs and everything. And so Joe took his time going after Ali, thinking that Ali was clowning. But he was clowning, but he was clowning because he was hurt, and he didn't want him to really come after him even harder. So he escaped that situation. It was a fight where fans came. They were split, because you had the people who were riding with Ali through the civil rights movement and thought the government had wrongfully taken his title, and you had people who got behind the new champ, Joe Frazier, because Ali was a person at that time that was not well received. So it was like a battle of sides, you know, and everything. And when Ali lost that, a lot of people cried. A lot of people felt remorse and everything, and they felt like Ali's loss kind of meant something, like what you stood for with him and what you wanted with him wasn't meant for you, or was a bad thing, or it wasn't supposed to happen, or whatever. And that was the wrong way to look at it, because of all of the small details and intangibles that played in, like his time that he was laid off. Nobody had known what type of effect that would have on him. You know, the movement that he used to have, it was not there anymore. He was more human, so to speak, because he was like a Roy Jones before the layoff. He was so athletic and fast and everything, and could move and dance on his toes for 15 rounds. It was the type of situation that your hero had fallen, and you were dejected, you know. So there were so many things narratives that went into this fight. And it's one of the greatest fights in history. Anytime it's on, I watch it through its completion, because it's the ultimate style matchup, the boxer and the puncher, you know, the slugger. And it's like very entertaining and fought at a high level. Joe Frazier was in his prime, and Ali was in his prime years, but not in his prime athletically. So it's like, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Curtis, first, I want to thank you for coming on, man. You're welcome back anytime. I know your phone's heating up, so I want you to close us out with your thoughts on this fight, bro.
Oh man, one of my favorite fights, top 5 in the history of the sport. You know, my collection, I have a huge boxing collection that I'm proud of. All fighters from A to Z, or Guerrero to Zarate. This is one of my favorites. You know, the backdrop, this fight was on the Monday night, and it was so big. Over 300 million people witnessed the fight. 300 million. You know, Burt Lancaster was the color commentator. He was a huge movie star in that time. And Frank Sinatra, everybody knows Old Blue Eyes. He was the ring photographer. Woody Allen, Aretha Franklin, the Knicks, who was a hot commodity. Walt Frazier was very popular, charismatic basketball player. Every celebrity in the world was there. Even Frank Lucas, y'all off the movie, dope dealer. He was there with the fur coat. It was incredible. It was incredible. I got in boxing in '74, and I remember my father taking me to the barbershop and talking about this fight. It was like in '73, '74. And, they would talk about Ali and Frazier because it was a long-lasting memory, and there's been a lot of rivalries. I love all sports. You may not be familiar with Boca Juniors versus River Plate. There's an intense rivalry in the soccer world, Argentina League, Brazil versus Argentina in South America, Boston Red Sox, New York Yankees. I can go on and on, but I have never seen a rivalry like Ali and Frazier. I've never seen a rivalry like that. The intensity, the social and political ramifications during the fight. Both men, of 1971, $2.5 million. That's a lot, And my friends asked me if they was to hypothetically fight in their prime in 2020, how many pay-per-views would it sell? I said about 15, maybe more. That's how you're talking 300 million people witnessed the fight, and, it was sold out everywhere, and it was a great fight. He hurt Ali in the 11th round with a double left hook because Ali wasn't the same fighter. There was two Alis, the 70s Ali and the mid-60s Ali. When he was at his prime, when he fought a guy by the name of Cleveland Williams and Zara Foley. He could move like a middleweight, and my top 10, I have a number 2 behind Sugar Ray Robinson. But he should have fought a couple more times before he took on Joe Frazier. He fought, when he came back, he fought Quarry and Bonavina. He should have had a couple more fights because he didn't really have his legs. And Joe Frazier, like Chavez Sr. and Marvin Hagler and Roberto Duran, Mike Tyson, great pressure fighters. And Rocky, I got to throw Rocky Marciano in there. Great pressure fighters, and he put it on Ali. It was a punishment. Both guys, ruined each other's career, to be honest, but I will never forget it. Ali versus Frazier is really the fight of the century. You had Lewis and Smelling and, Johnson and Jeffries and, Pacquiao and Mayweather made the most money, but it didn't live up to expectations. Ali and Frazier did, so those are my memories, D Style and Stormy and Chat, of the 49th anniversary of the great fight between Muhammad Ali and Smoking Joe Frazier.
Well said, man. Make sure you guys throw a jab at the like button, right? Make sure you subscribe to Stormy B, man, so you can check out the 3 wise men of boxing on Saturday. Stormy, any final thoughts?
Oh, man, just a great boxing conversation. Appreciate you having me on. It's always a pleasure to be on here with you, and also always a pleasure to be on with Kurt. And to everybody in the chat, just thank you for interacting and your comments and everything. This is what it's about, man. When we could sit up and talk about these quality matches, what we were just finishing commenting on, as well as the aspirations and hopes for what's to come with the fights that we talked about previously and prior. So I'm just glad to be a part of it, and salute to you, D Styles. Thanks for having me on your wonderful channel here, bro.
Absolutely, man. And I want to thank you for coming on again, Stormy. Shout out to Ashy. Stormy filled in, guys. So there you go. Curtis filled in as well. Curtis, any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
Real quick, man, you have a good boxing mind. You have a great show. Pleasure to be on with Stormy B, man, and yourself. I finally on the show. I loved it. Hopefully I'll be back. I just love boxing. It's very passionate, to me. I mean, I could tell you stories where I broke up, you know, what over women when it comes to broke up with women when it comes to boxing. You know, when Roy Jones fought Julio Gonzalez at the Staples Center, you know, a week after that, because I couldn't see the fight live, I broke up with my then girlfriend. That, you know, that's how serious I take it. I fought out of the Lenny Shaw boxing gym. My father introduced me to the sport, and I learned from Art Rush Jr. and Bert Sugar and Hank Kaplan and Jerry Eisenberg. Those are real boxing guys, you know, and, you know, I'm just glad that we have a platform where we can fellowship and talk about the great sport of boxing, man. And I'm always learning, man. You guys give me props, but I learn from each and every one of you guys, man. And it's just great that we could just talk about boxing. And when my phone gets cut off for an hour, I'm going to look at Chavez versus Rosario in another hour. So boxing has consumed my life. And like my friend said, you're not married. You're married to the sport of boxing. You're not married to Tammy. You're married to boxing, which I can't deny. But thanks for having me, D-Style.
Yeah, I can relate, man. I skipped quinceañeras. Okay, we put Chavez fight at a wedding once. Yeah, the bride wasn't too happy. I was a kid, but you know the groom wanted to watch the fight. You know, but that's that. Shout out to everyone once again. And by the way, really quick, I haven't had a chance to work on Will of the Boxing Gods Volume 2. I haven't had that chance yet. I will get to it. I'm going to have some time off around April so to get that done. It just takes research and time. I have some information given to me by Scrapbook, which I am going to use. He did go out of his time to give me that. So, and from Haplotype as well. Man, it's going to be some. For those that haven't checked it out, it's in the front page of my channel, the story of Kid Basie versus Pajarito Moreno. Make sure you guys check that one out. This is D-Style Boxing. And what do we say, Stormy?
Keep it boxing.
Keep boxing. Peace.